Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Friday, February 21st at 11:36 a.m. I have on the screen something we're not going to talk about. We're going to talk about all day today the new intro music that StreamYard has released. We're going to go over Fourier transforms and their choice of tone and how effective it is at introducing stream content, because that is the most boring topic I could possibly think of. Now, it is your responsibility as a listener to ask questions. Until questions are asked, I will continue to talk about the most incredible introductory music the world has ever seen. So thank you, StreamYard, for offering it. No, seriously, folks. Seriously. Let's not do a monologue. Let's not do the same shit that we always do. Regurgitating the same conversation. Everything looks good. We all know that. We all saw the headlines that I've been posting on X. Been years topping out on the 10-year. And there's your dollar. 10-year rolls over, 10-year yields, that is. Dollar comes down. Great. We've been talking about that. We're talking about the same thing. When is the dollar going to roll? It was literally what's going on. So there's no surprise there. There's nothing informative I could talk about. So let's nothing informative I could talk about other than what I already say on X. Now, I'm sure everyone who listens to me on YouTube follows me on X, and I'm sure that everyone that reads my stuff on X follows me on YouTube. That's clearly not the case. More people should listen in. Arrow, we're going to start out, and hopefully other folks will join from X or YouTube. Ask some questions. It's all about you today. Come on. How sustainable do you think the sonic surge of activity is? It's absolutely not sustainable whatsoever. What we've learned time and time again in these crypto markets is that you have to understand who folks are, who humanity is. Humanity is fragile, weak, selfish, opportunistic, greedy, and society is largely attention deficit. I mean, this is ADD and ADHD is literally like what a remarkable capacity for society to be diagnosed with those conditions nowadays. Not really a condition, it's just that's a complicated topic. I'm not trying to get into a complicated topic, but the point is I don't trust anyone. I don't trust any activity in any market. What's it matter whether it's sustainable or not? What matters, only thing that matters is our basic rules. And the simplest rule, one of the simplest rules is exposure. We talked for a while about how to have exposure to Sonic, and it was like this was basically pre-launch, and we're like, all right, fine. Um, and historically, it was like equal Beethoven solidly. So, and then we honed in on the Ramses airdrop, and that was probably 2, 3 months prior to Sonic deploying that we had some initial word of Kingdom going to Sonic. And I'm like, all right, that means I don't have to buy anything. We're going to have some sort of exposure, free exposure. And it's going to be what it's going to be. So that made perfect sense why we did what we did and how we find ourselves in the position that we currently find ourselves. Um, it's irrelevant how sustainable it is. Look at Solana, literally experiencing an economic depression by any analytic inspection conceivable. Um, and by definition, Sonic is experiencing an absolute blowout in economic activity, relatively speaking, of course. Anytime you have a 40% increase in currency supply week over week, holy shit, things are going to go absolutely parabolic with consumer price inflation. That's exactly what things going 100, 200, 300% in a day is. That's called consumer price hyperinflation. We need to be very clear in what a bull market is or what rapid price appreciation is. It's consumer price inflation. People are consuming these assets, they're acquiring them, they're not really consumables. But that point still stands. Um, this clearly is an ongoing conversation era. We all have a vested interest at this point in Sonic. We have all talked about Ramses for a long time, and we've all been disappointed by lackluster Arbitrum flows, which has caused relative underperformance significantly in most assets across Arbitrum lately. Significant capital outflows um, uh, the last couple weeks. So it is what it is. But we, because of that exposure to Arbitrum, which still has a ridiculous narrative, and frankly, optimism is lackluster as well. It's significantly more lackluster as compared to Arbitrum. There's less than $1 billion on optimism mainnet. Much more money in Arbitrum, and frankly, we know that Tether USDTO or whatever the hell they called it is literally Arbitrum centric. So it might be lackluster, but we sure as hell had a significant, substantial narrative to engage the way we did. We chose Ramses Kingdom. Kingdom deploys everywhere. Different approach than Velodrome. Same concept, except uh, forking rather than superchain type concept. So all right, and that led us to where we are with the shadow exposure that we have. And shadow is absolutely insane. Shadow, it's obviously exuberant, but aside from that, I don't give a shit about the price of it. Clearly, all that matters is the flows, the receipts that it generates, which is the claim button that you click at the end of the week. But what's fascinating to me is there's no rebase in the sense that you're getting new token supply, to my understanding. Um, any X shadow sales, 50% of it doesn't get sold, which is fascinating. And that 50% literally just gets distributed to the depositors of X shadow. So I'm like, me and the way my brain thinks, I own stuff. I mean, selling isn't even a button to press in my methodology, which means over time, I'm literally just going to own more and more and more of the deposits because either folks are selling it because they're LPing or folks are exiting their deposit, their stake position, and I'm getting that also. So I'm literally just going to go up, up, and up in percent ownership because few people are going to purchase positions that were afforded to us for free. This is a relatively large position. It's a minority of the user base that is acquiring the position size that, frankly, Arrow and I have. So that means literally it's just kind of maybe achieves better than what originally solidly wanted to do with the rebase. And the point of rebase was dilution protection, and this achieves that significantly, meaningfully, in a very different way. It's an interesting redistribution of short time preference people, the assets of short time preference people, to long time preference people, high time preference people. Say that 5 times fast. Very interesting mechanic thus far. So, whatever, it's all good. We have exposure. Done. Done, done, done. It's owned. It's going to do what it's going to do, and it pays X amount weekly. That's all that matters. Yet another addition to the weekly flow. Simple as that, Aaron. Shrimp, this is really good. Franco, shrimp is really good too. I'm going to have some shrimp for dinner, I think, my man. I appreciate that. I tried my best. Feel welcome to ask any questions. More than happy to answer anything. Zero X Morning Cap. Which AI provider do you typically interact with? Okay, so ChatGPT Pro was where I was at for quite some time. Um, the deep research functionality is meaningful, but when Grok 3 dropped, X's new Grok 3, um, it's on a whole nother level. it's on a whole nother level of capacity. So barring, OpenAI dropping the next version, 4.5 or 5.0 or something. Yeah, no, I have to really push oh 01 Pro mode even to even have comparable degree of competence as compared to Grok 3. I mean, literally, it's like 2, 3 days into Grok 3 or whatever, and it's on a whole nother level. It literally sees everything and it understands. Its past capacity or its capacity to inspect past context is pretty extraordinary considering what we've been using. Um, Quite a profound deployment of software. Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. I was wondering if I might as well just Grok 3 is better than ChatGPT Pro right now. The only difference is Grok 3 is limited, whereas ChatGPT Pro is not. But the capacity of Grok 3 is. But then again, you got to remember what's my use case. I don't really do software with it. I'm a software engineer, and I don't need it to do software, and it really can't do the software things that I do. Um, but I do legal work with AI. Yeah, Grok 3 is far superior. It's the most incredible thing I've used thus far. Every time I reach a cap, like a ceiling in my work, um, like a new AI iteration comes out and it just blows through the ceiling, just with things that I didn't even think of, and I'm like, oh my god, that's brilliant, and I expect it to happen yet again. Let's see what OpenAI has up its sleeve. I'll hold on to the pro version for 5 minutes more. I really hope Grok 3 continues to iterate. I expect them to. And I wouldn't mind a pro version there where I have an uncapped capacity to interact with it. DCA, man, much a pleasure. I didn't get the memo. ETH wasn't good cash. I have a decent amount of ETH. Well, yeah, it is. ETH is cash. Good is subjective. Cash is Bitcoin, dollars, ETH. Anything that's liquid is a form of cash, really. Especially anything that's liquid that has liquidity with dollars. Now, so it's fine. Uh, I I'm quite the Bitcoin maximalist, I am. So if you're talking about not dollars and you're thinking in terms of cash, my entire perspective really is a maximalist. Either I'm going to have Bitcoin or I'm going to have dollars. Anything else, I don't give a shit that Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin. I don't care if Solana outperforms Ethereum. I don't care if Sui or Say outperform whatever. I don't give a crap. That's not the point of the cash position. The point of the cash position is to have cash, to have a capacity to service liabilities, to finance expenses, to pay for shit. Now, clearly, whether it's Bitcoin or dollars, you ultimately need dollars to pay for shit. So that plays into a never-ending thought process in my mind. How much Bitcoin? So mostly nowadays, I think in terms of what is a reasonable exposure, and that's kind of what I have. It's kind of what I've had since last year, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I don't really need any more. What I need is dollars because we live off dollars. We live off having enough dollars to finance our expenses, our debt obligations. I don't think of dollars in terms of savings. I think of dollars in terms of how long can I pay my damn bills for? How can I pay my bills? And do I have enough dollars to invest? Do I have enough dollars to buy something I want? Which is rare nowadays. I'm really not a consumer in many regards. Anyone who came and saw my life would be very critical of that statement I just made, but I stick by it. I There's no way for me to say anything regarding Bitcoin versus Ethereum. Anything I could say would be purely subjective. I hope my story that I just said about my thoughts on cash helps your decision making process. F season. It was always F season. See, in my mind, time's irrelevant, which is a fascinating statement because obviously time is relevant to humans. So obviously, what do I mean by that? We all have an incapacity as a human to neglect consideration for time. We live our lives around it. But as I've gotten older, I've had a capacity to carve out this component of my mind that says, fuck time, it's annoying. Let's try and neglect it in the decision making process. So I have always seen this as Ethereum season. And that is straight in the data. The data has always screamed it's Ethereum season. If you go over to stables on DeFi Llama, you go over to Ethereum and it loads a little slow. It was always ETH season. Ethereum has more dollars than all other markets combined. Ethereum mainnet is the network where all the money is. That's the only possible inspection to make when looking at the data. So just because Solana meme coins were going crazy and now everyone is well aware it's all fraud and scams, everyone's all fucked over and broke. That's clearly the narrative pervasive in Solana land, considering it's in an economic depression with what 30 something percent week over week collapse in financial activity and 10% collapse in total dollar supply. So it was always Ethereum season. It just wasn't the right time. But I just explained that in my mind, I don't give a shit about time. What I care about is being right, not the time in which I'm right. Um, and that's why over the last 2+ years, I say 2+ because it was Q4 2024, where things started to turn around. With regard to spot price, market price. We had a consistent narrative. We had a consistent story that I told. And it was always the same. It's always been the same story. Um, so, and it was always calm and confident. It wasn't even confidence. It's just that's what it is. This is the most extraordinary market and investment landscape I've ever seen in my entire life. And Ethereum has $122 billion. Now, this is zero in the grand scheme of things, the global capital markets. Zero. But it's a massive number. I mean, this is almost the amount of almost the amount of money that the U.S. government spends in a day, or at least Treasury raises in a day, or U.S. aid gave to some other country in a day. I don't fucking know. All I know is this is a tremendous amount of money. Um, it was always Ethereum season, Jared. Soon, good morning, Cap. Much a pleasure. Hope you're well. Reg, Bybit just got drained. Yeah, I saw it. The market is bouncing. Literally, I think from an intraday cyclicality perspective, portfolio is down like a 0.5%. I don't own much ETH. I own ETH for gas. That's its use case. That's what makes the most sense to me. I need Ethereum because I got to do transactions. Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin hasn't moved. It's up or flat or $98,000. Tremendous number. Um, Investments, fintech investments across Ethereum and EVM ecosystems haven't moved at all. Some nice volatility in shadow, but holy shit, it's at $166. This is the most insane thing I've seen in quite some time. And that's exactly where we are in these markets. It's starting to get weird. I mean, this thing is literally at 5.651 mil in rebase for the week. That's 104%. That's insane. It's Friday. This thing's gonna be at 200% by next Wednesday. That's crazy. So maybe brings us back to what Arrow was talking about at the beginning of the stream. That's interesting. Sonic's interesting. The original Phantom arc was interesting. And now Sonic is exponentially more interesting compared to Phantom. Whole nother level, whole nother state of these markets. Everything is in a completely different state. So much infrastructure. The capacity for cross train is extraordinary. I mean, seriously, in the bridge, the amount, not only the amount of bridges, I mean, if you're just going Stargate, cross curve, and across, it's like what else do you need? Everything else is trying to compete for those top spots, but Cross, Stargate, and AWA, that's it. And they just work. Oh my God, the PTSD from 2020 and 2021. Oh my God, the shit that we did back in 2020 and 21. Talk about post-traumatic stress. Anywho, Rich, not a big deal. What is Convex up to, and what effect could their resupply project have on Convex? I don't know. Uh, See, that's why I afforded myself the position of a base layer maximalist. Whatever they're doing is in their best interest. Whatever resupply does is in their best interest. Whatever result occurs is a synergy between resupply and convex. And whatever results between all of them is a synergy back to the base layer. So all these folks putting in work to serve their best interest is serving the base layer, which is my interest. Hope that helps. So they're interested in their survival, they're interested in their relative outperformance. So they're going to, in turn, support my survival and relative outperformance indirectly. Assume that's why I jumped into the agent space. I made a bet their models would fix the issue before software needs to. Agents are quite fascinating. I don't have I have few words for agents. Not the like virtuals tokens. It's just silly to gamble on that shit. It's just a meme coin. In the end, like Arat, my token for my agent, I made a good purpose. I had a good intent. People could literally they use it to book one-on-one time with me. I built the system. I built the ticketing system. Provided instructions how people could book one-on-one sessions with me. It's on Discord. It's not even behind the subscription. That particular channel is available to everyone. The tickets channel. So what am I supposed to say? Very much a success. What I wanted to do with Agent Rational, it's running day in day out. Um, Anywho, just most important thing is folks don't get caught up in hype and they focus on sustainability, survivability, resiliency, and those lovely keywords. Jared, I won't be here to discuss heading back to work now, but Altered State Machine is partnering with other projects such as Wire Network, I think, to bring say agents on chain and NFT with memories. Uh, a lot of loaded types of concepts there. Those are massive concepts, AI agents. I mean, literally, they're plugging into the only, what, a private LLM, and they're running their own server infrastructure, which means they need their own compute and they need their own GPUs. Most of these agents are probably plugging into one of the APIs from the commercial providers. Or I don't know. I might be speculating and erroneous in that regard. I'm not big at all on AI agents in the crypto space. Clearly, there's a long-term future. Like agents that have a capacity to pay other agents using cryptocurrency and they're intelligent, they're sentient maybe. But it reminds me of like the concept of decentralized cloud storage, but Filecoin or I don't know. There was a bunch of them over the years. I don't even remember them at this point. All right, great. You're going up against AWS and Azure from Microsoft, and what a Bitbucket or pick your cloud storage provider. It's just run by corporate. So it's the same thing with AI and agents. It's too nascent to really say where it's going. It's too speculative for me. And if NFTs with memories, these are very abstract concept. That's cool. It reminds me of like certain types of staking things that I looked at back in 2020 and 21. There wasn't there wasn't there was no time horizon on potential capital allocations. It was just good tech. Good tech isn't always a great investment. That is one of our rules. What matters is what's the if you're going to buy something, what's it doing for you? No, 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 no. What's it not potentially going to do for you? What the fuck is it doing for you right now? on Friday, which is today. So that's why we have XYZ. That's why we have concepts like fuck you, pay me. That's why we have the rules, the business rules. So great tech is not always the greatest investment. Jared, I hope that helps. Great question. And we have a long history of talking about how great tech isn't always a great investment and what are our business rules. And that'd be a good ex post, an article. What are our rules? I think that'd be useful. At this point, we probably have a good dozen rules. Um, I mean, clearly, number one rule is buy more assets, and number two rule is know when to stop buying assets cyclically. Um, obviously, the pinned tweet or pinned X post, that's just classic at this point. You want me to invest in your company, which is basically in crypto terms, you want me to buy your token. How much are you paying weekly? That's definitely an abstract concept for folks getting into investing. Well, I'm not going to pay you anything, but the token price is going to go up. And me, I simply fuck you, pay me. I don't give a shit if your token price goes up, down, left, and right. XYZ, baby. How much does it cost? How much is it paying? And are you going to be around in the future? Are you going to keep paying me? And that's what I want to buy. I want to buy something that is paying me and is going to keep paying me. And I want to buy it at the cheapest price possible. Very simple equation. Now, clearly, there's a whole lot of things to think about um, to digest that, but that's another story. Peter P. Hello, Cap. Much a pleasure. Much a pleasure. Frank, howdy. Howdy. X Castle. Good morning, Cap. Noob question. Where would be the best place to interact with V curve outside of ETH mainnet? There is no V curve outside of ETH mainnet. Too pricey for. Yeah. I expect gas prices to be expensive, especially as economic activity picks up. The mainnet's expensive. You're talking about 15, 20, $30 a transaction. Not interacting with mainnet with relatively small micro investments. Like you can interact on Sonic with $1 forever. Same with Arbitrum, same with Solana, same with Optimism and all the super chains. It's pennies for transactions. They're not mainnet. Mainnet's dollars. More often than not, tens of dollars. That is just what it is. It's an isolated playground that is financially restricted. Um, it's when you walk into the mall, you got one side of the mall that's got, J.C. Penney, the Gap, and very reasonable stores, and the other side's got the outlet stores and that fancy shit, that Cartier type stuff, Rolex and bright and shit like that, the brand names. That's just what it is. Mainnet is that's some pricey shit. I don't go to mainnet a lot. I frankly only go to mainnet nowadays for Curve. What else is on mainnet? I don't really own much on main. Well, actually, I own actually I do own a fair amount. Um, Cleaver concentrator. Uh, a lot of it's the V33 stuff on not on mainnet at this point. Balancer. I retain my balancer position. Folks historically know I liquidated Aura. That's been quite some time. But balancer I will retain. That's base layer, and balancer is some balancer. That's a big deal. You don't just build something like that for it to evaporate like a fart of dust. Balancer was always something. Question is what is another story. Vested interest is another story. But the position sizes is fine. Like that I'm okay with. I had just overwhelming confluence telling me just get fucking rid of the aura. That was stupid. That's like a convex position. I have no interest in convex. I just don't. And I fall back on base layer maximalism. I went on the base layer. That's it. Simple. Keep it simple. That's my philosophy. Yeah, it's cool. It's gonna go up. It's convex. It's uh, um price to nav. Do I have it here? Yeah, shit. Of course I do. Okay, I don't know convex, but I sure as hell know its value. Intrinsic value is $5. What's it run it at? 264? No, no, no. Intrinsic value is 593, and convex is running at, yeah, 264. Its components are more valuable than it. So this is all mispricing. That is by definition malinvestment. It's mispriced. But I don't care about it going from 264 to 5 and change. That's the reason. That's how I simplify my equation. All I care about is how much does it pay weekly. And in that regard, it pays comparable numbers, 10, 20, 30, whatever the hell it's going to be at, and it's going to vary over time. So it's very important to understand 10% is 10% is 10%. If one person, one business or one thing you own is paying 10%, something else is paying 10%, and something else is paying 10%. I don't give a shit which one it what it is. It's all paying 10%. So that is a way to have a common denominator, uh, giving you a little bit of a way to say, I don't need to own something. As you become a more advanced investor, you're not looking more so for what to buy. You're really looking for reasons not to buy something. So 10% is 10% is 10%. So I have exposure to convex does well. It means curve's going to do well. That's fine. So base layer maximalist. Go to the base layer. That's how I simplify my equation and how I tell myself I don't need to own something. Yeah, new intro music. That's straight stock. I was quite surprised to hear it as well, but that's all StreamYard's doing. And yeah, could bop around to it a little bit. Yeah. hmm My man Trevor. Hope everything's well. Yup, it's amazing how overlooked what's going on in chain is. Who cares about ETF? I don't care about the ETF. Frax has little. Oh my God, what Frax is doing is absolutely insane. Frax is gotta be the king of the greatest tech is not necessarily the greatest investment. I mean, what Frax is doing from a software perspective is downright biblical. It really is. It's extraordinary. Separate part of the equation as compared to a good investment. Now, do I have exposure? You goddamn right I have my VEFXS or whatever the hell it's called nowadays, VEFRAX. But on mainnet, it's still an FXS deposit because that's just locked. So they're not really going to be able to do anything about that. But yeah, very content with that. I don't give a shit whether it goes up or down. When I think about how much I own of it, and I'm like comfortable. I own. Do I own Frax? Yeah, I want to own Frax. Is it the greatest investment? No, that's irrelevant. I own it. Something that's a piece of established crypto infrastructure. So I've had Frax since like first month of launch. I watched it go from a dollar to $40 and back all the way back down, smiling the entire way. Because I own the right thing. It's the right part of the portfolio, and that's all that matters. What matters is being right, not making as much money as you can, because this is a game against yourself. And the whole point is to win. And to win, you need to be right as you measure it. And then you just need to follow your own rules and everything else, total net worth, that's a manifestation of the market. Market's going to tell you those things. And if you're right, over time, the market's going to appreciate those things for you, the things that you appreciated before the rest of the market did. Hope that helps. I decided my rule was to have a change uh, when you have a 0% air trap turned to 40. Oh my God. No doubt you talking about Shadow. That's the most, that is the largest air job I have ever experienced in my time. That The shadow I back in 2016, 17, I experienced this bankruptcy in the stock market. It was called Namaska Lithium. Best investment I ever made, and it went bankrupt. Yeah. It's one of the most important pieces of lithium refining property in the Western Hemisphere. It just is. To this day. Um, Whatever. The amount of money I lost in that bankruptcy is 100% loss. The damn shadow airdrop is larger than that amount of money was lost. And it was quite extraordinary the amount of money that was lost back then. I was like, that was painful. That was very painful. Anywho, history. Captain's log. Not the one that goes in the toilet, the one that you write down. Captain's log. That's my history story for the day. No, Captain. Mr. Captain. Rationality checking. Fuck you, pay me. Yeah, it's as simple as how much you're getting at the end of the week. So in that regard, I don't care what Shadow's price is. Going to go up. It's going to go down. I understand the mechanic that I'm going to have a more concentrated ownership over time. And as long as Sonic heads in the right direction with regard to financial activity, great. Shadow's going to keep paying. It's going to keep paying. It's going to pay more. It's going to pay less, and it's going to do it again. More, less, up, down, up. It's going to look like this chart. Up, down, over time. All I care about is higher lows, higher highs, check back 10 years, and it's paying more. That's all that matters. Get paid. Buy a salary. The old pizza shop idea. DCA man, I hope Contango will add Sonic Network products. Look like this week the cash flow will be low in Contango. Yeah, so it was appropriate to size that position accordingly. I think I'm down 50% on fair market value. It's locked. And according to my rules, it's locked in perpetuity, so it can't be sold even if I wanted to. It's irrelevant. I don't want to sell it. The amount I own, it's a lovely position. Revenue goes down, revenue goes up. What matters is it's good exposure and it pays. So that's, you see, the hardest part about getting started with a cash flow portfolio is you need to be concentrated. It means fewer positions, which also means if you have fewer positions that's starting to pay less, it's a significant drop in revenue. But as you get more cash flow and a couple of years pass and you start to really exercise rule number one, accumulate more assets, you have multiple revenue streams, multiple. So if Contango drops 50% in a week, all right, well, all of a sudden you get an airdrop for Shadow that's 5 times that amount. And, Ramses is going down, but Nile has been doing very well. And Clio had a variety of incentives on ABC Clio, so that cranked out some stacked up cash for the month. And for a while, Abracadabra went double in price, so that its cash flow for that week was when it was what, point one point zero zero 0.0016. So Spell was up at 0.0016. That was the most insane cash flow week I've seen out of Curve in at least a year. That was crazy. So Spell is down 50% from there. It'll be back up and down and up and down. And when you have a larger portfolio, if something's down for a week or two or three or four or a month, everything kind of balances out more or less. And you have more wiggle room, more resiliency as the portfolio uh, can be diversified as long as there's enough capital to be diversified. What do these ETFs mean philosophically? Are they significant? What about Bitcoin ETF volume versus gold? What does fee switch imply? What about e-staking? So I don't have much thought about the ETFs philosophically. You're gonna drive yourself nuts, paper Bitcoin type stuff, whatever. It's Willy Woo type conversation. Who really gets it? So smart. Um, Volume versus gold. Gold is what it is. It's gold, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, gold that is up and to the right only. Literally goes up and to the right. This is the most insane rally in gold I've ever seen, at least since 2020. That was gross. But this is a completely different valuation. I mean, gold has literally made my equities portfolio like, why own anything other than gold and Bitcoin? Um, I mean, gold literally outperformed my Bitcoin so far. It's up 55%, and Bitcoin I got when the ETF launched, so that's up like 50%. Oh, is what it is. Fee switch on like Ethereum staking, that's a big deal. So I think that is something that a lot of the capital managers, the brokerage firms were skeptical of the Bitcoin ETF. That's what they want to see. They want cash flow. They want dividends because that's what the older people want. And obviously, I'm coming at you in my 40s. I'm like, I want what older people want. The funny thing is, me and the wife go out for dinner, and everyone around us has like pitch gray hair, and they're like 80 years old. And me and my wife are out for dinner at 3:30 on a Friday, let's say. Uh, so I tend to behave older. I tend to have conversations that are older than my age. I just want to be a dividend investor. Back in my day, is what it is. I guess I've always been an old soul in that regard. So that's what folks want to see with the ETFs. They want cash flow. Where's the damn dividend? Turns out Ethereum staking cranks out a heck of a dividend. So that's a big deal. That's a struct, that's structurally a big deal. 120 bill on mainnet is massive. 122, massive. What else is there to look at? That is a massive, massive number. We come back to the old thing we always look at. Dollar move 10-year. That's it. Dollar move 10-year. Things are so close. I mean, the RRP getting drawn down, things are so close. RRP, man, we're so close. And we're gonna have a lot of. Is it ever gonna stop going up? Because that's what it always is. History always rhymes. It's really as simple as that. That's why the number one rule is the number one rule. Own more assets over time. There's no alternative. Snoke is the dollar expected to devalue soon. Not devalue, but structurally, the 10-year says it's topped. You got to a 6 month on the 10-year. This thing's not going any higher this cycle. You're going to see a nice drawdown the 10-year before you see a rally. It's just structurally what it is. It's smacked right into the 200 SMA in the 6 month for 2 years. 2 years. These are 6 month candles. These aren't 1 hour candles. These are 6 month candles. That is a resistance. Come down. Let's say, what is that? The TWAP right here. Green 9 comes down to 4% over the next 1, 2 years, and then it rallies and blows off the Valhalla. And that's higher lows and higher highs, and this is structural invalidation. This chart goes back to 1912. Everything post 2020 has invalidated the structure of the legacy financial system. And if this structure changes from 10-year yield standpoint, everything changes in the way the system works. It's a different world. The whole world's financial system structures around yields. So when you see this chart break structure, it means the world is breaking structure. That is the only possible philosophical takeaway. Grok 3 is insane. I talked about it earlier. It is far superior to ChatGPT Pro. Deep research. The Grok 3 has a deep research function. It's just far superior. Um, I spoke earlier about it. Obviously, it's for my use case, legal purposes, as compared to programming. I don't need it to program. I'm a better programmer than these big guys. So that's my 2 cents on Grok 3. Good stuff. Always a pleasure, Snoke. Always a pleasure. PCA man just discovered Debita, a protocol where you can lend your V3 assets. Well, they're illiquid. Your VE33 assets are completely illiquid at fair market value. They require significant discount to incentivize a buyer to step forward. No interest whatsoever in the concept of leveraging the E33 NFTs, locks, you know, the E NFTs. Nothing. Zero interest in that at all. Debt positions collateral must be of the highest liquidity to have a resilient um, financial infrastructure. Yams in the house. Much a pleasure. Always a pleasure, my friend. Facts are facts. Yes, indeed. When will the curve fees 5x? It's irrelevant. What's pertinent is on Friday, well, yesterday was base V curve, and Wednesday was vote rentals. I don't know. I don't think I've claimed this in a couple days. If it ever loads, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, curve? I don't even know if I have a couple bucks in there. I haven't checked. 1,600 bucks. Nothing to complain about. That's base VE curve. It's lovely. So obviously, vote rentals are multiples of that, so that's cool. So you get paid on Wednesday, get paid on Thursday, get paid on Friday from work, and that's what's pertinent. That number will go down, up over time. That's all that matters. Yeah, I know. It's gonna be a good year. I have a high opinion that this is going to be an interesting year with regard to financial assets, or rather the monetization. It doesn't even have to be like, a hyper consumer inflationary year, like insane shit breaking. It could be literally monetization of crypto fintech, and the demonetization of overpriced bullshit boomer equities, and just the demonetization of gross malinvestment. So a lot of things can play out, but this is a year for those types of things to play out. Marshall's in the house. How are you, my friend? Good morning, Cap. Just bought a monitor with the shadow. Right? Oh, that's a nice acquisition. Something useful, something meaningful, something physical. Um, you know, I'm more. I would say that those are better acquisitions, like computers or monitors, or if reasonable vehicles or housing than consumables. Like y'all have to work. That I work. My daughters are going to work. Everyone works. You have to work, so you get a salary and a paycheck. Sure, that's for consumables. That's for food. That's for gas. That's for heating oil or electricity. That's what work is for. But the whole point of work is to build cash flow for other shit, for assets. So guess what? Obviously, a monitor is an asset. Rule number one: buy more assets. Obviously, it's not a good investment, a monitor, but I mean, maybe it is if it's productive and it facilitates programming or something. So that's another story. But it's a depreciating asset at minimum. Technology is always depreciating. So the interesting takeaway of this little rant is assets are assets, whether they're um, an investment or not. Staring at computer monitors right now, these are assets. Phones an asset. Everything's an asset. I happen to prefer and encourage folks to think to choose assets that pay you. That's another story. Certainly another story. But consumables are very different than assets. Um, but those are two things I think about a lot. I think about you know what I think about so much, how fuck we are as a country, the U.S., because of uncollateralized credit financing consumables. That's gotta. You guys realize what that statement means? Uncollateralized credit financing consumables. Basically, people are using credit cards to pay for things like food. Uncollateralized credit. We talk about it all the time in crypto terms, like Aave. It's 100% collateral. You're over collateralized. You're over 1.0 in health factor. Under collateralized is or uncollateralized is 0%. You have no obligation to pay anything back. So, in crypto terms, the concept of uncollateralized credit doesn't exist at all. And it's just insane from a social structure standpoint, a philosophical standpoint. It's really insane. There is no obligation whatsoever to pay anything back, and that's exactly why default rates are what they are. That's why the amount of credit outstanding is what it is. There's no restriction. If you are using Aave and you have a collateralized credit loan and you're 200% over collateralized and you have a threat of liquidation of your collateral, you're not going to borrow too much. You're going to make sure you're within liquidation thresholds. You're going to be responsible because you don't want to be liquidated. And you're going to be limited by the amount of collateral you have. You can only borrow so much, not just because you don't want to get liquidated, but because of the quantity of collateral you have. There's limits. There is no limits with uncollateralized credit. It's basically a free for all. So the worst possible thing in existence to spend uncollateralized credit on is consumables. You will never get that money back. By definition, you consumed it. I mean, at least use the uncollateralized credit on some shit that's going to make you money. Like finance or lease a car and be an Uber driver. I don't know. That's credit. That's a carry trade. You're borrowing, and what you're using the credit on is producing more money than the borrowing cost. That's by definition a carry trade. Anyway, that's a bit of a digression. I don't like to get into social dynamics because I know a lot of people are struggling and whatnot, and that's a something I must be empathetic about. It gets complicated and contentious, that type of conversation. Modern life dating, if you live frugally, you retire on 2.5 S&P set blue chip stocks, dividends? No, no, you cannot. The benchmark blue chip dividend stock is Realty Income Corporation. Benchmark. I mean, we're at like 5%. Uh, oh, no, not optimistic. Oh, oh, really? Realty Income. What's your damn dividend, bro? Dividend payment information. That's literally the king of REIT dividends. It's the core of any good REIT investor's portfolio. I want to see your percent though. Stock price? 5.64%. So $2.5 million, you're making 130,000 dollars a year. No, you cannot retire on 2.5 mil investing in the S&P and select blue chip stocks. Now you can retire if you're not banking on dividends and you want to consume those investments. Now, that is considerable. Um, I don't like that idea because I kind of want to build something like my kids and whatnot. So I don't want to consume my assets. I want my assets to hopefully be chosen so they will remain. They're meaningful assets, not transitory or bullshit. I mean, nothing in life is a perpetuity post a reasonable time frame, but you can at least try, in my opinion. So that's why I really love the idea of immutable software deployments. So, in 100 years, can't even begin to speculate where things will be, but the concept of finance is kind of seems like it will remain. 100 years is a very hard time frame to wrap your head around. We having a hard time frame or a hard time wrapping our head around 2030 and AGI. So, anywho, I don't know. That's obviously a very topic that could be discussed in great length, but I would say no. Um, but 2.5 mil, my opinion is that is overwhelmingly retirement. 2.5 mil, you're making 500 to $750,000 in cash flow with a relatively risk-adjusted crypto portfolio of fintech. So boomers at 5%, you'll get 125 in crypto. It's a half a mil to 750. Yes, folks don't. They just. It's very hard to teach the story of volatility, and the only real way is to experience it. Because the volatility in the crypto markets is akin to an economic depression. It is a complete and utter tsunami, a collapse. So once you understand that, and I mean, what was a good post? This was a good post. This was a good post. Where is it? This kid posted it, and I retweeted it. But this long already? Yeah, it's a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Was it that far? Yeah, here. Oh, you make 7% annually on your fiat. Personally, I prefer to be up 1,000%, then down 99.999, then up whatever the hell that is, and then down 98% for a respectable 8%. So that's the point of volatility. It's all noise. As long as there's higher lows and higher highs in principle, higher lows and higher highs in cash flow, everything else is noise. And the inspection there is, why is it higher lows and higher highs? Because this is crypto fintech. This is fintech. This is banking. If it walks like a bank and talks like a bank, it is a bank. And the benefit is that nobody else freaking sees it. It's staring you right in the face, and no one else sees it because they just see crypto or the derogatory terminology altcoins, not the fact that it's an actual bank. 'Cause obviously, a bank just is what it is. Curve is a foreign exchange, a credit institution, uh, endless derivatives, a liability financier, and a liability printer, a liquidity financier, and a liability printer. Curve is literally all five business verticals in the crypto space in one protocol. There's very few protocols that have achieved that. Yeah, that's because Curve was the first. Simple as that. Anyway, that's a great question because I have older family, much older than me, the generation before me with Gen X. They would never be able to stomach like selling, commercial real estate property and putting it in crypto. They would never understand it, get alone how to manage it. They're retired. Let's say a building's worth like a mil and a half, 2 mil. And these are older people that bought the buildings in the 70s when it was like 60 grand. So that's understandable. Um, but they would never be able to convert and manage that kind of capital. They're just not mentally equipped for it. But meanwhile, they get these piece of shit returns from rentals. You're talking about cumulative rentals of like 5 to 7% after all the bullshit of commercial property ownership. And you could take that 2 mil and literally, instead of getting whatever, 100, 200 grand a year off their rentals after taxes, in crypto, the 2 mil's cranking out a half a mil. It's beyond processing for Gen X. It was just fascinating. I mean, I'm a millennial, and I'm the oldest of the millennials. I'm an old dude. I'm 40 something years old, but and I'm the one telling this story that so many folks, even my peers, can't understand. This just is what it is. It's my story. I'm sticking to it. Hope that helps modern life. Peter, gold and Bitcoin are my favorite holds, IDCA, in both until 2028. And in 2028, what are you going to do? Are you going to sell it all for dollars? Then what? Write it down. Write down what you're going to do. Write down what you think's going to happen. Write down what you should do in what situation. So I'm pretty sure you're going to come up with some open-ended, oh shit, I didn't really think about that. Because if you sell everything, you have nothing left. If you sell all your Bitcoin and gold, and you have $2 million, $5 million, 2028. What are you going to do with the no? What are you going to do with the money? What are you going to do with it? Even if you have 5 million, you're like, I'm good. I have enough to retire, and you're like 65. I'm just speculating. You're probably younger, whatever you are. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. Let's say you're 75 years old and you're going to have 5 mil in 2028. Do with 5 mil. All right, fine. Maybe you literally are the most frugal person in the world and you spend like 50 grand a year, and, and that's it. Then that works. But it's very hard to be restrictive on capital expenditures. Most people aren't. Most people mess that one up. That doesn't account for inflation. That doesn't account for everything and anything that we experience in society. So, you know what fixes it? All these complexities or concerns I'm offering. Write it down. Have a plan. Use AI. Write it down. Work it out. What do I do under these circumstances? And some people encapsulate those types of thoughts in memos. You could do it in a will. Trusts are a great way to do it. Trusts are literally a rigorously documented business structure by definition. Hope that helps, Peter. You borrow against both fairly easy. Oh, yeah, that works. So, okay, so you have a plan. I don't know about the gold. The Bitcoin is actually easier to borrow against. Maybe I just don't have any experience with gold. I guess in a brokerage account, just the margin works. But what's the interest rate? So you could borrow against Bitcoin because Bitcoin has a CAGR of 30%, speculated to have a CAGR of 30% heading into 2030. So that means you could literally borrow like 3% per year. So if you have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, you could borrow $30,000 a year relatively safely, considering 80% crash volatility potential. Um, so that means you need, I would say, $10 million worth of Bitcoin. So you can borrow 300 grand a year. Maybe you're more frugal, as I said. So this is why investing in capital management is so dependent on who you are, who we are, where we are, geographic locale, so on and so forth. Because 30 grand a year is an extraordinary number for so many people on this planet. Unheard of for so many people on this planet. So fine, you have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, you borrow all the 3%, 30 grand a year, and that's it. Bitcoin plays out with this CAGR of 30% per year on average. You're going to be able to borrow 3% just and keep on borrowing. Now the problem is that's a consumption of Bitcoin. At some point we die as humans and there's debt outstanding. I don't know. It's just I don't like debt. I don't like debt. Don't like the concept of borrowing money, especially borrowing money to consume. Kind of goes back to that brief story I told earlier. The secular dollar bear market mean ridiculous price inflation, or there is more caveats than that? More caveats. Sounds insane in an unprecedented way. A secular dollar bear market means rapid price appreciation of foreign currencies, which means significantly more purchasing power of foreign currencies, of which there's significantly more foreign currency on the planet, which means supply and demand imbalance, more purchasing power. If it doesn't meet increasing supply, it's going to mess things up. So, regard to consumer price inflation. Uh, I don't know. There's endless caveats. There's endless knock-on effects. There's endless deflationary pressures in the system as well as inflationary pressures. It is not as simple as saying secular dollar bear is inflationary, consumer price inflationary. Not as simple as that. I mean, obviously, you can talk about any one particular market, but I'm not going to digress too much. We've been on the stream for a bit so far. Five-bit hack crazy. Yes, indeed. Snoke. Yeah, I'm cap thoughts on fitting weaving curve. A brilliant, brilliant guy. Uh, no one ever leaves. Anything you've created, it's always a part of you. So, all right, that's cool. He's going to do what he has to do. Everyone moves on sometimes. That's my thought. I've worked on many things in my career. I worked at Universal Studios and built the Android mobile food ordering product. So if you ever go to Universal Studios in Orlando and download the Android app and order food, I built the first version. And it was literally me. There was no one else. I was the only developer building the whole thing. It took me like 3, 4 months to build. That was about it. It was just relatively short. But every line of code in the original mobile mobile food ordering was mine. I don't know what the hell it is nowadays, but that's one of the things I built. I've done a lot. Microsoft Family Safety. I did a little bit of work for Facebook. I worked at American Express for some time. Serve product, which is now deprecated, doesn't exist anymore. Huffington Post. Where else did I work? Oh, Royal Caribbean map. I did some work for Motorola for a bit for 5 minutes. Their OnStar stuff. It's like 30 seconds, really. I don't know. What else did I do? Oh, the best one was Universal Studios. That was the best one. I literally walk into the park every day. I literally sat in front of Jimmy Fallon every day. I was like, just gonna go sit in the park for a little bit, just to hang out. Right under Rip Ride Rocket. That's how you get to the back lots, and that's where the offices were. That was fun. Didn't pay the best, but that was by far the most fun work experience I've had. Traffic was horrible. Turkey Lake, Jesus Christ, traffic was insane. Literally took like 45 minutes to get a couple of blocks. That was gross. Anywho, nostalgia. It was all good memories, all of it, every company. Simple as that. Anywho, digression. Yes, crypto is really something. Portfolio goes up 10,000x, down 90%, but you collected 80% ROI and principal cash on hand. Not hard to want to. It, oh my God, it is. It's hard not to want to sell everything. Yeah, it requires a different mindset. Either you acclimate or it just is an endless burden and endless anxiety and endless not knowing what to do. So that's why I developed my methodology with my rules. I know exactly what to do and exactly when to do it, and I follow my rules. And I've redefined the entire game. Define your rules, everybody, and get in thinking about where we'll be in 8 years. Well, that's my mindset. I'm literally thinking about 2028. I think about 2028 more than I think about right now. And we haven't had a bull market in the crypto space since 2021, as per my definition. No one is authorized or allowed by the captain to tell me otherwise. There has been no bull market in the crypto space since red guppies in 2021, which was the end. Here's your double top on Bitcoin in 21. And we have had no red guppy since 2021. Therefore, as per my definition, we have yet to have a bull market. Ladies and gentlemen, Friday, February 21st at 12:44 p.m. I appreciate each and every one of you. 220 people made it to the end of the stream and are now all that much more rational because of it. It's Friday, so I wish you all have a wonderful weekend. Stay relaxed, watch the anxiety, let the market do what it does, sit back, follow the rules. All that matters is following the rules. I will see you next week for the next dose of rationality. Until then, peace.